We're now ready to work on problems 18 through 24 for the trig review for test 2. Problem number 18, graph y equals 4 cosine 1/2 x minus 2. Use your knowledge of the different parts of the formula for the trig functions. Y equals a cosine bx minus c plus d. Use your graphing calculator. This is a multiple choice test. I feel sure that with that information and maybe a little modification on your calculator screen that you can choose the correct multiple choice answer. You know by looking at this that this has amplitude, four, that it has vertical shift, -2, that the period equals 2 pi divided by 1/2, which is 2 pi times 2/1, which is 4 pi. You can probably just look at that information and pick out the correct multiple choice answer. If not, then turn on your calculator, go y equals, put that equation in your calculator. Be sure that the mode is set to radians. Be sure that zoom is set to trig, and graph. When I compare this to the answer that I have on the study guide for problem 18, I can tell that the answer on the study guide is shown a little more of the x and a little more of the y, so I need to adjust my window a little bit. I'm going to go window, I'm going to go down here to y minimum, make that be -6, graph, see what that does to this. Now it's looking better, but I need to see a little more on each of the x maximum and x minimum. I'm going to put -10, x min, 10, x max. Now, if this were multiple choice, I'm sure that I could pick that out. I think that's enough information for number 18. Number 19, y equals 2 cosine 2x minus pi over 3 plus 2. I know amplitude is 2. I know that this has a phase shift of, if I set 2x minus pi over 3 equal to 0, it's 2x equals pi over 3, divide by 2. That's the same as multiplying by 1/2. Phase shift, x equals pi over 6. It has vertical shift of 2. Now, maybe by that I can tell exactly which one is the correct multiple choice answer. If not, then you go back to your calculator, graph this, 2 cosine 2x minus pi divided by 3 plus 2 graph. Compare that to the answer shown on your study guide. If you need to make adjustments to your window, do so. Notice on this X scale that each X scale is pi over 3. I'm going down here for the X scale. I'm going to go second pi divided by 3. I'm going to see if that makes any difference in how this looks. Not a whole lot, but I can match it up. I see that first little loop matches right there on that second notch on my graph. So I'm good. Number 20. The angle of elevation from the top of a house to a plane flying 6,300 meters above the house is x radians. There's my house. Here is my airplane. This plane is flying 6,300 meters above the house. D represents the horizontal distance in meters of the plane from the house. The angle of elevation is x radians. Now, express D in terms of a trig function. What trig function has opposite and adjacent? Tangent of x equals opposite over adjacent, which is 6,300 over D. When you solve that for D, D tangent of x equals 6,300. Divide by tangent of x. D equals 6,300 over the tangent of x. Or 6,300 times 1 over the tangent of x. 1 over the tangent of x is cotangent, so that would be 6,300 cotangent of x. Number 21. Find the exact value of the sine inverse of the square root of 3 over 2. You're going to use your exact value chart. You're going to use your knowledge of restricted domain. And you're just going to pick out the answer. This says, what angle has sine of the square root of 3 over 2? 60 degrees. Is 60 degrees included in the restricted domain for sine? Yes. 60 degrees equals 60 times pi over 180 is pi over 3. (22) Sine inverse of negative 1/2. We know that the sine of 30 degrees is 1/2. We want to know which angle has sine of negative 1/2. That would be the angle in the fourth quadrant that has a 30-degree angle, so that is negative 30 degrees, which is negative pi over 6. (23) Cosine inverse of negative square root of 2 over 2. We know that 45-degree angle has cosine of square root of 2 over 2. We know cosine is negative in the second quadrant. So here we are in the second quadrant. Related angle of 45. So theta equals 180 minus 45. 135 degrees. Change 135 degrees to radians. Five goes into 135 27 times. 5 goes into 180 36 times. 9 goes into 36 4 times. 9 goes into 27 3 times. 3 pi over 4. You could have used your calculator and simplified that a lot faster than I did. Paper and pencil. 24. Tangent inverse of the square root of 3. Look at your exact value chart. You know that would be 60 degrees. You know tangent is positive in the first quadrant. That answers 60 degrees. 60 changed to radians is pi over 3. Final answer.